Hey everyone, I know it's been a second, and I know this isn't directly related to what I've been talking about over the last couple of months, but I just wanted to bring this to anybody's attention who has not heard of what is going on with Reddit's new API changes. I'm not here to give you a super in-depth breakdown of exactly what's going on, but I came across this post on the software engineering subreddit, and it was quite concerning to me. So I thought that I would share this with you in a quick video, kind of go over exactly what's happening to the best of my ability with Reddit's API changes and talk about what we might be able to do about it. So this post, I would start here if I were you. It breaks down a lot of the consequences of the API beginning to charge the fees that it will be charging. It starts by showing several applications that are going to be shut down as a result of these API changes. Some problems with accessibility on Reddit, people that are not able to access Reddit without third-party API usage, some implications for NSFW content, and what you can do basically to help. So just today, one of the founders of Reddit made this AMA post, and as you can see, got a couple of Doom awards, so that's always nice. But basically in here, I'll read part of this with you. For those of you who don't know me, I am Steve, one of the founders of Reddit, and I've been CEO since 2015. Let me share the background of this topic as well as some clarifying details. On 418, we shared that we would update access to the API, including premium access for third parties who require additional capabilities and higher usage limits. Effective June 19th, our 2023 updated data API terms, together with our developer terms, replace the existing data API terms. Effective July 1st, the rate limits we'll use the data API free of charge are 100 queries per minute per OAuth client if you're using OAuth authentication, and 10 queries per minute if you are not using OAuth authentication. According to him, this accounts for 90% of all apps that are accessing the Reddit API. So that's kind of interesting. It sounds like although 10% of apps that do access Reddit is a pretty high number in terms of, the absolute numbers. It's kind of nice to see that 90% of the apps fall into that particular category. Effective July 1st, so just about a month from now, the rates for apps that require higher usage is 24 cents per 1,000 API calls. Some apps such as Apollo, Reddit is Fun, and Sync have decided this pricing doesn't work for their business and will close before pricing goes into effect. For other apps, they're going to, I guess, continue negotiating, is what he's alluding to here. We know many communities rely on tools like REST, Context Mod, Toolbox, etc., and these tools will continue to have free access to the data API. We're working together with PushShift to restore access for verified moderator. We're working together with PushShift to restore access for verified moderators. If you're creating free bots that help moderators and users, please continue to do so. You can contact us here if you have a bot that requires access to the data API above the free limits. So this is one of the problems that was addressed, one of the primary problems that was addressed in the software engineering post, is that the cost to continue to supply Reddit with manual moderators takes a ton of time and therefore is quite expensive. So being able to make mod bots is really important for a lot of subreddits. So hopefully that means that this won't affect them as badly as the initial post suggests. Developer Platform is a new platform designed to let users and developers expand the Reddit experience by providing powerful features for building moderator tools, creative tools, games, and more. We are currently in a closed beta with hundreds of developers. For those of you who have not been around a while, it's the spiritual successor to both the API and custom CSS. Regarding explicit content, effective July 5th, we will limit access to mature content via the data API as a part of an ongoing effect to provide guardrails to how explicit content and communities on Reddit are discovered and viewed. This change will not impact any moderator bots or extensions. In our conversations with moderators and developers, we heard two areas of feedback that we plan to address. First being accessibility. They want everyone to be able to use Reddit. As a result, non-commercial, accessibility-focused apps and tools will continue to have free access. We're working with apps like RedReader and Dystopia and a few others to ensure they can continue to access the data API. And better mobile moderation. We need more efficient moderation tools, especially on mobile. They are coming. We've launched improvements to some tools recently and will continue to do so. About 3% of mod actions come from third-party apps, and we've reached out to communities who moderate almost exclusively using these apps to ensure we address their needs. He stuck around for some AMA And I suppose that was a good thing. Decent that he's trying to reach out, I suppose. People are not very happy though. One of the objections here is just to the pricing. So usage-based API pricing on other platforms is usually a fraction of what yours will be. Christian Selig had stated that Imgur charges $166 for 50 million calls compared to Reddit's now $12,000. Why would you consider such a huge premium to be fair or affordable to developers? That's a great question. I mean, obviously scale has some serious upside costs when it comes to accessing these third-party APIs. And one of the most popular apps that's going to be shutting down is Apollo, which is a viewer, a really nice, lightweight, but very powerful viewer for Reddit. They're going to be shutting down because the cost for that is simply too high. Hey Spaz, I just want to say that despite all the hate being directed at you right now, that you really have made the wrong decision at literally every juncture throughout this process. Have you given any consideration into acknowledging you were wrong and reconsidering your goals and or timeline? I think I agree with this. I mean, I don't know a ton about the ins and outs of how they've approached, announcing this to the world, but it does feel like this happened kind of fast, and it seems like a pretty extreme and expensive change that's going to be affecting a lot of developers. And I think it's also going to drive away a lot of developers that were considering building applications for Reddit to make it better or more accessible or just better overall to interact with. So I don't know how I feel about this. I think the pricing is pretty high. That comparison for $166 for 50 million calls as opposed to 12,000. That is quite the discrepancy. And I'm not extremely familiar with what other services charge for their API usage, but I mean, that is a pretty stark contrast between those two. If you consider like the free market side of things, that is quite the premium to be asking for. From Reddit's side. So anyways, I just wanted to make this a short video. If you haven't heard about this, I think it's important that attention is drawn to this issue. There are hundreds of subreddits that are just going to be essentially going dark in protest to this, including this initial post that I showed you, the software engineering subreddit. They're going to be shutting down indefinitely on June 12th to protest Reddit's API changes. I think that's a great move for people or moderators of subreddits that are frustrated by this. I don't think it's a bad idea. It is going to obviously result in a lot of hemorrhaging of traffic to Reddit, and it'll be really interesting to see how this develops over the next couple of months. I think a good move here is not necessarily for them to not charge. I think it's totally fair to want to make profit off of supplying a great service to people, but I think it's expensive. Reddit has been around for a long time, and this is a pretty extreme change for the community in general. So while I think that the charges for the API are not a bad idea, it's probably something that I would honestly implement if I was at the helm of something like this. I think it was too fast, and I think it's probably too expensive to make sustainable. But I would like to hear from you. Let me know in the comments what you think, and I'll talk to you soon.